Thank you very much, Nicole and Justin. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is currently in India for a 3-day visit. He will be meeting with his Indian counterpart, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, later today. He met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday. This as rising COVID-19 infections are an ongoing matter of concern, with the highest number of new cases in the state of Maharashtra, of which Mumbai is the capital. Now, to help me unpack these stories, eNCA's India Correspondent Rebecca Bundhun. A very good afternoon to you, Rebecca, and thank you for joining us. So, what are the two nations hoping that this visit will achieve?
I didn't catch the question, but I presume you asked me about the Lloyd Austin visit, which is taking place today. He arrived in India yesterday, the US Defense Secretary, and he met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday. Today, he met with his Indian counterpart, that's the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, and they had what Mr. Singh described as a very fruitful and productive discussion where they discussed issues including defense cooperation, defense trade, sharing of information, and really what the two sides are hoping that will come out of this 3-day visit is a boost to defense and strategic ties between the two countries, which have become increasingly important as the US is looking to build allies in this region to counter China's growing assertiveness. Also, India has faced its own challenges with China. We know that it's been in this border row, which really intensified last year between India and China, and that's why it wants to grow closer to the US in terms of its defense ties as well. It also comes at an interesting time. Of course, this is the first cabinet-level Biden administration cabinet-level visit to India. It comes following visits to South Korea and Japan as part of the same tour. So this shows the importance that the US is placing in terms of building India as an ally. It also follows the recent Quad Summit, which took place this month, and that involved the leaders of Japan, Australia, and the US and India. And that Quad alliance is also seen as, again, trying to counter, to balance that growing influence and strength of China in the region. So really, this visit was extremely important in terms of the timing during the COVID-19 pandemic as well, when cases are rising in India. That Lloyd Austin, the US Defense Secretary, did pay this visit, and certainly it's seen as something that will give a significant boost to US and India ties, particularly in terms of defense and strategic cooperation, which is becoming increasingly important at this time.
Rebecca, I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear me now. I'll try and project, but I want to just, ask, is there any kind of expectation that the two nations will discuss anything COVID-related? I mean, I know it is a defense kind of meeting and has been a defense meeting with Lloyd and his counterpart and with the Prime Minister himself, but are we expecting at all that there will be any kind of discussion about the big concern of rising numbers in India of COVID-19?
I didn't catch the question. I'm finding it hard to hear the audio, so I don't know if you could repeat that for me, please.
I'm just asking, are we expecting there to be any kind of conversation between the two nations about the major concern of rising COVID-19 numbers? I know this is a defense kind of meeting, but are we expecting there to be any discussions about the rising numbers of COVID-19?
That didn't seem to be a focus of the meetings, although there's a very good chance that it did come up in passing, given the numbers of cases that we're seeing in India at the moment, and of course that being a critical issue globally. Really, the main focus was on these defence discussions, cooperation in terms of military. There's a good chance they did discuss COVID-19, however, certainly with the numbers, there have been more than 40,000 cases, new confirmed cases in India in the past 24 hours. And it is interesting that this visit did take place at a time when COVID numbers are rising in India, and it does show the importance of boosting those ties between the two nations that this visit was paid to India. Also, interestingly, a senator had written to Lloyd Austin ahead of this visit and actually asked him a US senator had asked him to bring up the issue of eroding democracy in India in relation to, for example, the recent ongoing farmer protests that are taking place in the country, the treatment of journalists, these issues that have come up in India. And he was asked to discuss that. Lloyd Austin was asked to bring that up during his meeting with the leaders. But it's unclear as to whether that was an issue that was raised. It certainly wasn't something that was revealed in the statements that have been issued so far. Certainly those statements have really referred to the strengthening of relations between the two sides and the importance of both countries being democratic nations and having similar values. However, yes, with the COVID situation at the moment, it's very likely that it was mentioned at least, however.
All right, we will leave it there with Rebecca. Thank you so much. I know our line has been quite terrible, but we, of course, did get as much as we possibly could there.